Representative Grove.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, good to see you again and your entourage. I want to follow up. Representative Roy asked you a question about FIA and whether kind of the approved contract makes higher education sustainable. Your response, or I'm sorry, PASHE. Thank you, Representative Roy. 70% of students are Pennsylvania residents, and the administration wants to ensure that those students have access to PASHE moving forward. That was kind of your response to his question. How does increasing the cost of PASHE increase access, as increased cost leads to higher tuition, and higher tuition would be a barrier for individuals enrolling in those institutions moving forward? Can you just clarify that a little bit for me?
Sure, and I wanted to, that was my statement. I want to clarify, or I want to correct what I shared earlier. 70% of the Pennsylvania high school graduates go on the state-related institutions. So I can't say that my intent is so my intent was not to say that increased cost, support students moving on to those institutions, but quality programs do support students participating and enrolling in those institutions. And so when asked specifically that I support, a contract that provides, for us to, to identify, recruit, retain, and engage high-quality staff members, that I do.
Okay, so that was linking it to quality of education from those institutions.
Quality instructors in those institutions.
Okay. Next question. Can you answer what changed between the budget documents you sent to the budget office in October and the final budget that was presented to the General Assembly in February? What were the funding differences between those two?
As specific to general operations, GGO?
Just general. So mobile science and math education was eliminated. In your budget you sent to the administration, was that a recommendation of the agency, or did that come from the budget office to eliminate that line item?
So as we started looking more deeply around the initial proposed budget and then the subsequent budget, one of the areas that we had to realize was that two really specific areas. One, there was a $3 billion potential shortfall in the state's budget. Secondly, the governor is identifying, or has identified, and it continues to look to identify $2 billion in inefficiencies. So when we resubmitted, there were a number of increases and decreases that were, that were requests that were included. So it was a result of just I have a list of them. I won't take all of our time, but we did adjust to meet the need of that $3 billion and $2 billion of efficiencies. Pupil transportation, $50 million reduction. Was that your agency's request to the governor, or did the governor put that in their budget? Mm-hmm. So specific to pupil transportation, we know we met with the folks through McKinsey, which was a McKinsey report was submitted. We worked with the governor's budget office to have probably a longer range conversation.
In short, that came from the budget request, not your agency request.
It wasn't that simple. It was a group of us sitting together to strategize. So it was more the result of conversation. When we engage with the budget office as in terms of what we submit.
I mean, the general question is, when you submitted your budget documents to the budget office, was there a $50 million reduction in that line item when you submitted it?
So from our original submission to our final submission, where we're trying to realize efficiencies, that was one of the areas that we included. We don't. So the Department of Ed, being a large agency, we don't kind of submit in a silo, in a vacuum. We work together across agencies to realize what we have, what our priorities are, and then ultimately what we submit.
Okay. What program measures did you determine to base those funding reductions and increases on?
So first, in our original budget, of course, like most agencies, we ask for more for everything, until we realize what the bottom line budget looks like. And then we still ask for more. But my team and I engage in an exercise where we look at, specifically what's priority, and then we just go line by line and try to realize that we stop at, what the balanced budget is, and then we move on to, to ask for more in specific areas.
Okay.
For us this year, K-12 was one of the most significant increases.
Your GGO has a $2.3 million increase. There's a new augmentation for PlanCon under that of $1.2 million. Is that from bond proceeds?
Yes, for the 17-18 year, that would be from bond proceeds.
And what's that going to fund?
That would be going to fund staff primarily.
So we're
At that
bonding to
point, I
fund
have to
staff.
cut
Thank you,
you
Mr. Chairman.
off.